Hey, everybody. Welcome back to KF&JF Podcast, man. I tell you, we're always on the move in your community, and we're looking forward to being on your community list. Whatever you're doing out there, let's just make sure that we know about it, and so we can be about it as far as coming out there, being a part of your team or promoting you, and making sure that you get the highlight that you deserve. Again, I want to thank all of you guys for going to that joybeloved.com and making those purchases. I tell you, that continue to help us succeed in the movement and everything that we're trying to do here at the podcast to bring more people in. So I really want to thank you again for that. And today we got an update. We're going to make sure our guest today lets you know what's going on new in his game. And I really appreciate him being back on KF&JF Podcast. But first, I'm going to pass it over to Razak, the co-host of the KF&JF Podcast. Go ahead, Razak.
Greetings. My name is Razak. I am the CEO and founder of United Minority Business Ventures. My purpose is to help small businesses grow. This means I will assist with the creative process and maintenance of your business. The method to achieve results is simply building a deeper relationship with your customers. I do this by forming opportunities to communicate and collaborate with your followers, subscribers, and other business owners. By using a wide range of networking tools, we will have an understanding for building your business profile, what type of social media marketing fits your productivity and your availability, and building your financial profile, branding your services, product, or merchandise. Together, we may also determine what type of license is needed to operate your business. And does your budget permit the ownership of your own domain or buying into pre existing sites that host your page? I like to drive traffic by managing your website. This allows me to work with you to select posts that create subscriptions, comments, and likes. I also assist by generating comments on other individual business sites or a page that create a dialogue of conversation directed towards your page. I also assist with the creation of the content on your media site. This will be a collaboration of ideas which will reflect on your brand, your work ethics, and the community's need to know what you have to offer them to bring a better quality of comfort to their lives and lifestyle. I can also assist with the writing of content, directing your videos, the editing process, and publishing them on various sites for marketing purposes, advertising, and promotional value.
Well, the discussion today is update. You know what? Chuck your head. Let's reintroduce ourselves and make sure that everybody knows you and what you're about, sir.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Charles Carter, but I go by Chuck. I'm originally from Long Beach, but I grew up in Los Angeles as well as Riverside. Um, I'm a retired Navy veteran, and I'm married with 3 kids, 2 grandkids. I'm the creator of the board game known as HIPHOPOLY, and I'm the founder of my company, which we've titled Product of My Enlightenment. And our mission is to help inspire change in mindsets.
Okay.
I tell you, man, that's one of the big things about your game. Everybody's happy with, the enlightenment that you're bringing to them. But before we get into everything, would you tell our viewers and everybody a little bit about you, a little bit, something they don't know, and just kind of get into that?
Well, like I said before, I'm originally from Long Beach. I grew up in Los Angeles, Riverside. Um, Joined the military at age 18. Retired in 2017, and decided to start my own company, right, to help those who grew up in inner cities like myself, um, kind of give them some motivation so that they're aware that you don't have to be a hip hop artist, or you don't have to be, a movie star. You don't have to be a celebrity in order to make it out and live a joyful and prosperous life. Um, my path was a little different. I too once thought that I wanted to be a hip hop artist. Like most kids who grew up in inner cities. We believe that the only way to make it out is through sports or rap. You know, so but God had a different plan. He pointed me down the path of joining the military, which worked out for me and my family. And today we're still prospering. We're still moving forward. Um, yeah. And aside from that, I'm an avid golfer. I also have my own golf line that I'm starting. I've started. Um, working on getting the merchandise. Um, and you should be seeing that real soon. It's called Boardgame Golf Club for the golf enthusiasts of the world, but it's coming soon.
All right.
Wow, man, with all that going on,
Mhm.
shoot. Just tell me a little bit about how did you come up with the name of the product of my enlightenment? What brought that on, and how did you get to that name?
Well, part of the reason I named the company Product of My Enlightenment was because lots of times when we grow up in inner cities, we uh, we adopt this product of my environment mindset, right? It's prevalent in hip hop music, so much so it's been on several different album covers. There's several different artists who titled their albums "Product of My Environment," right? And I believe it's the mindset that we are taught to believe, right? We are raised to believe that we're supposed to be on government assistance for our entire life. We're supposed to be living in the projects our entire life. We're supposed to be dead or in jail by the age of 25, right? These are the things that the system is designed to get us to believe, and once you believe that, then it's kind of hard for you to get out of those circumstances, right? But when you start realizing that there's other people, my skin complexion, who don't live in the projects, who take family vacations, who who seem to be having a prosperous life, right? Then you start wondering, well, what are they doing different that me and my family aren't doing? You know, and that was kind of my story in regards to how I grew up, how I was raised with my mother, and the things I seen while living with her, um, the things that we had to endure, you know, living with people, sleeping on people's floors, um, sleeping in hotel rooms, walking across the city with a shopping cart full of clothes just so you can go to the laundromat. Um, worried that your friends from school were gonna see you and your little sisters and your mother walking down the street with this shopping cart full of clothes, like you're homeless, and when you see your friends that you on your sports team with, they have washing machines in their houses, right? And you're wondering like, well, why aren't they pushing shopping carts across the city, you know, just to go wash clothes? You start asking these questions and you start realizing that it's more so about the decisions that your parents made versus decisions that their parents made, so I just felt like once you start, I feel like once you start realizing that we're not supposed to be living like this, we're not supposed to be living check to check, we're not supposed to be living or depending on the government to keep a roof over our head. We're supposed to be living a prosperous life. So once you start realizing that and you start asking questions, you start enlightening yourself and you start realizing, nah, there's a better way to live. We don't have to live like caged animals. We don't have to live like crabs in the barrel. So it's the term product of my environment is is prevalent in urban communities. So my goal was to help do something to change that ideology, help change that mindset. So as you can see, the shirt, product of my environment. No, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want to be a product of my enlightenment. So that's where the name of the company came from.
Okay.
Wow, man, that's deep, because all of us can relate to that, pushing that basket down there with all that stuff to the laundromat and that, feeling a little bit bad about that. Let me ask you this though. I think it's something to be said for this though. Is there a spiritual meaning behind what you got going on with the game, and how do you think the game should be played? Is there something spiritual that brought you to that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, enlightenment does not. Well, enlightenment comes in several different forms. It could come from you having a conversation with someone who knows more about this particular thing that you're interested in. It could come from, you doing your research and reading. It could come from you going to school and doing your homework, and you know, talking to your teachers or your professors. And it most definitely can come from you having a connection with God. I feel as though um, you having a relationship with God and believing that there is a higher being, um, you it's basically the Holy Spirit that speaks to your heart, right? So you most definitely can become enlightened just by having a connection with God, right? Because I feel as though God and the Holy Spirit guide your moral compass, right? He prevents you from doing things that isn't right, right? He again, he just guides your moral compass. Like some things just don't feel right with your spirit, and when you know that, you make wiser decisions. So absolutely, I feel like there's a spiritual connection to it, but it's all about enlightenment. However you get enlightened is what we're all about.
Okay.
Well, you know what, brother? That's one of the things I've learned, not letting our circumstances dictate our lives. It's like having
Mm-hmm.
faith. You can't just go in and out of it. So I really
Right.
do appreciate you making that statement. And I'm going to pass it over to Razak, and he has a couple questions for us as well.
Okay.
All right. All right. Um, well, I like that you're volunteer for this update, because there's more into what your businesses are, and how this relates to you and your life and your lifestyle and experiences through life. But can we once again tell us what made you create this game, HIPHOPOLY?
Well, the reason I created it um, was several different reasons, but one of the main reasons was because, I saw how I was able to make it out of the circumstances that I grew up in and had to deal with. And like I said, my path was a little different from what I had wanted, and which was to be a hip hop artist. Um, but once I, I graduated high school, joined the military, um, I kind of joining the military kind of put me in a position to be able to purchase my first home. Right. And I was having a conversation with my stepdad, who had recently came back in my life. We probably lost connection for about 18 years. Um, and so when he came back in my life, he was like, "Hey, since I haven't been around, um, I want to do something special for you for your birthday. So let me know what you want, and I'll send you the money to get it." Right. And at the time, spinning rims was out. And I just told him, I want a set of spinning rims. So he asked me, how much the rims were, and I told him about $5,000. So he goes off a little bit, and after he calmed down, he was like, okay, well, listen, I'm gonna send you the money for these rims, but you can either take this money and go buy those rims that don't appreciate in value, um, that's really not going to do nothing for you other than make you look good for a little while until you get rid of that car. um, but or you could take that money and go use it as a down payment on the house. And at the time, like I said, the product of my environment mindset, I grew up in apartments. I'm thinking this is what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to grow up and get you an apartment. So because I had an apartment, I was like, well, why would I go out and buy a house when if anything goes wrong, I can just contact the landlord. They'll come in and fix anything that goes wrong. And so he was like, yeah, well, you can continue thinking like that, or you can change your mindset and start thinking along the lines of um, obtaining generational wealth. So he got me thinking about it, and I kind of took his advice. I contacted a real estate agent. She took us around, looked at properties, and we found a house that we liked. And because we had qualified for the first time home buyer program, I didn't have to put nearly as much money down on the property as we thought. So I was able to go and get the rims and got the house. So here we are 20 years later, and I ended up trading that car in maybe 5 years later. So I can't tell you where those rims are today, but I can tell you that I still own the property. It's a rental property now, and it's more than doubled in value. So that that play alone was probably one of the most the wisest decisions I ever made. And it's because he planted that seed in my head and gave me basically an ultimatum. So when we have people like that in our lives that enlighten you to things that you don't know anything about, you got to appreciate them. For somebody to not be in my life for 18 years and then come back into my life and help me change the dynamics of my family's life with just one conversation, was life changing for me, and I love them for life for that, you know. And so part of the reason why I created this game was after I purchased my first property. 2 years later, I purchased my first rental property, and I realized after purchasing that first rental property and dealing with tenants, I realized that the monopoly game a lot of us grew up playing was less about the game itself, but it was teaching us how to be successful in the game of life, through real estate. So I said, okay, this really needs to be um, Hasbro has been around for almost 100 years, and they've never made an edition based on urban communities. You know, um, so I created my own family version, which this was in 2012. I created my own family version and called it Long Beachopoly. Um, and after my friends and family were playing it, they all, a lot of people wanted a copy. A lot of people were telling me that I needed to, think about putting it in stores. I just said, nah, I think the game is too hood. Hasbro would never license something like this, and after, again, this was in 2012, and then in 2018, someone else talked to me about the game and getting a copy of the game. I'm like, nah, that's a one of one. But because they asked me, I said, well, maybe I should look into getting the game manufactured. So I reached out to a company that specializes in custom Monopoly games. So they work with Hasbro and your company. They're basically the middleman, and they help you um, I guess, create your own custom Monopoly game. So I reached out to them, sent them photos of the game, and they never responded. And I would say like 6, 7 months later, now you have a Long Beach Opoly, a Crenshaw Opoly, a Inglewood Opoly. I mean, just the urban cities that I'm familiar with, that a lot of us are familiar with. I mean, it just seemed like there was just an abundance of Opoly themed games targeted at urban communities, right? And a lot of people were buying them just because of the nostalgia. It's nostalgic to have an Opoly themed game based on the city that you grew up in, right? But if you look at those games, it's the same game for every city. The only thing that changes in them are the street names, right? So I just said, well, my cousin actually sent me an Instagram video for the Comptonopoly, and the line was literally like wrapped around the store with people trying to get in and get this game. And she was like, "Yeah, you need to sue them. They stole your idea." It's like, well, for one, I don't know that. I don't know if they stole it or not. We can't say they did that, but I can't sue them because I don't own anything. So what I will do is just create a bigger and better version that's relatable to urban communities. And so I just started brainstorming on what would make this game different from all the traditional Opoly themed games on the market. And the idea that I came up with was to base it around hip hop artists and the cities that they grew up in. And our first artist that I had in mind was Nipsey Hussle. So went over to his clothing store, spoke to his brother about the idea, showed him photos of my Long Beach Monopoly game, and he liked the idea, and he was just like, "All right, well, you put it together, bring it back to me. I'll take it to Nip, and we'll go from there." And started working on the game January 2019. I think it might have been February 2019 because I spoke to him in January 2019, and yeah, a couple months later, he ends up getting killed. Um, so I decided to pump the brakes on the Nipsey Hussle edition. I was actually just going to leave it alone altogether. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he asked me why was I just going to scrap the whole idea. And I was like, well, one, this game was supposed to be based on Nip, and I don't know if his brother's going to remember the conversation that we had. Um, and I don't want him thinking that, I'm just coming in like an opportunist trying to take advantage of, his loss, and he was like, well, I hear what you're saying, but how many people do you think had a conversation with him about a Monopoly game? Like, you're probably the only person. So I think he's going to remember that conversation. And if I were you, I would finish the game and just reach out, take it to him when you finish, and just see what he says. So I said, you know what, you're probably right. Um, and I kept working on the game. So I think I finished the game. I think it was like January of 2020. So had reached out, had been reaching out through different friends and family, and we actually had a meeting scheduled, um, and COVID came and shut the meeting down. So once that happened, you know, we were just told just hold off on it for now. Once the governor lifts the COVID restrictions, then we'll meet up. And so after like 6 months of waiting, I said, we don't have to meet in person. We could meet over a Zoom call or something. I could show you the game, talk to you about the contents in the game. And if you feel like it's something that doesn't benefit, Nip's legacy, then, cool, no harm, no foul. We can just move on. But I was really adamant about the first edition being the Nipsey Hussle edition because I had put so much work into it. And I just felt like if he would have seen it while he was here, he probably would have rolled with me. um, on that venture, So, but it wasn't in the cards. Um, so we were just told the family was going through a lot, and just sit on it for now. We can revisit it another time. And so yeah, that was the idea behind Hiphopoly, right? We wanted to take hip hop artists who were all about helping to change mindsets, um, and taking the game of Monopoly and blending them, um, to help people understand that you know you can you can amass wealth in real estate, as well as investing, and you have more of a chance at doing that than becoming a hip hop artist. So that was where the original idea of Hiphopoly was born.
All right, all right. You know, with you trying to make this game specifically for for Nipsey Hussle, or at least in this going off his presence. What were the challenges in trying to make a game that is okay? Well, we are try to make your original game kind of like in mimicking his music and his lifestyle. I mean, considering, I mean, well, some people may know or they may not know, not outside of the gang history that he has, he was also a business and an entrepreneur guy. You know what I mean? So
Right.
is some of that part of the challenges of making the game that you had after you know Nipsey Hussle, and then what was your challenges after after his passing?
Well, um, the game was going to be obviously loosely based on his life. So yes, we were, probably going to put things. It was going to be loosely based on his life and his lyrics, right? If you take, you know, the the gang banging stuff out, you know, if you delve deeper into what he was trying to teach people and get people to understand, it's way more than just the gang banging aspect of Nip.
Hmm.
So that's the stuff that we were focused on. What he was trying to teach people. He wasn't trying to teach people to go out and gang bang. Yeah, these were circumstances that he ended up getting into because of his environment, right? He once was a product of his environment, and until he started changing the way he viewed things, until he started changing the way he viewed life. So he was trying to impute that into other people's lives, and it was working. You saw the city thriving off of just his awareness, just his enlightenment, and sharing things with other people to help them grow and prosper. So again, we weren't necessarily focused on the early Nip where you listen to his lyrics, it was gang bang heavy. We were focused on the later Nip.
Hmm.
So there were really no challenges in creating the game in that aspect, because he had more than enough lyrics to pull out of and capitalize on, right? As far as the other challenges we had, creating the game, we ran into copyright infringement issues that we weren't aware about until we sat down with attorneys and we were told what we could and couldn't do. So we ran into issues with, you know, uh, graphic designing. Um, you know, Reached out to a couple companies to actually vectorize all of my files, because I had created the entire game in Microsoft Paint, right? And I didn't know how to vectorize file. I didn't know how to use Photoshop, so we ran into issues with that. um, 1 minute it was this amount, and then the next minute it's 3-4 times that, and I'm like, wait, that wasn't the original price we had discussed. So, oh, well, we didn't realize the amount of graphics you have on these cards. Yeah, it's going to take a significant budget to vectorize all these files. So I ended up having to learn Photoshop myself and vectorizing them myself. So those were some of the aspects we issues we ran into. um, Another one was met with a company to get manufacturing through them. We told them that we don't want you to pay for anything, we're paying for it all, just let me know how much the manufacturing costs were going to be. And yeah, they basically told me they wanted to be a partner. They weren't really interested in just manufacturing for us. They wanted to be a partner, and they wanted, if we wanted manufacturing through their company, it was going to be, they wanted 50% of my company, even though I was paying for everything. Right. I was just like, this is crazy. But what that told me, and just to go back a little bit, before we met with the company, we're communicating over um, video calls, um, and or Zoom calls, and the conversation was, well, when we partner, they were interested in a partnership, and I was like, well, I wasn't really interested in a partnership, I was just looking for manufacturing, but I'll be interested to hear what your idea of a partnership looks like. you know and at first it was like, oh, well, assistance with manufacturing, assistance with marketing, promotion, um, and in return, you just focus on making more games. And I said, well, nah, it's my company, my product. I want to be hands on with everything. And they said, okay, no problem. We'll just send you the invoice for the manufacturing. So they initially, they said, well, before we so that we know what we're getting ourselves into before we get into it. So I said, well, I can come out to meet you, and that's what we did. Took a flight out to Florida, met with the company, and before we flew out there, he says, normally when we partner with companies, it's for a year and a half, 2 years max, because the goal is help companies stand up on their own 2 feet. And he's already speaking my language, because I don't want to be tied to another company forever. So um, we go out. By the time we get out there, now it's a completely different conversation. Right now, it is, well, we just want you to focus on making more games, and we want to take care of all the funding for the project. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm here for. I came out here to look at a manufacturing partnership, and what you're asking for, I don't really need. I'll pay you to help me with marketing and promotion, but no, what you want is not what I had in mind. So he says, all right, well, I'm gonna talk to my attorney, and we'll be in touch. We'll let you know what we're looking for, in order to get manufacturing through my company. So a couple days later, they respond, and they say they want 50% of everything just for manufacture. I say, even though I'm paying for everything, you want 50%. And the response was, well, I know my value, I know what I bring to the table, I know once I stamp it and I get involved in the marketing, it's gonna be out of here. So I said, I understand, but that's not a partnership that I was willing to delve into. So yeah, just from companies, one half of my company, um, um, dealing with creating the game in Microsoft Paint, and my computer freezing up on me and just destroying all the work I had done, and now I got to start over from scratch. Like, we ran into quite a few issues that potentially almost stopped the whole train, but because I believed in it so much, um, I just said I gotta keep going, So, and we
Right.
eventually brought it to life.
Right. Right. Yeah. That sounds like a lot right there. Especially if you're putting in all this work, and then these companies are saying that they want half of the profits, and that was just finishing the game, having the name, and you're doing all this, and that was just based on the distribution of the game.
Not necessarily the distribution; it was the manufacturing of the game.
The manufacturer. So
Um,
they're going to keep making the games for you, so
Correct.
you don't have to.
So we would
Okay.
start out. We would have started off with a minimum order quantity. Probably, I'm not exactly sure what they had in mind as far as order quantity, but again, I was just looking to partner with another Black-owned business
Mm-hmm.
to work with, and this company wanted half of my company to partner with them. It's just like, all
Man,
right, cool. We'll we'll take our game and go play elsewhere.
yeah,
So
yeah. You might as well say he's they damn near stealing your idea. You know what I mean? And profiting on it like that. That's what it sounds like. So yeah, that's a big challenge right there. Let me let's see these other questions I have. So you're saying that there's another game out there that's sort of like a Monopoly game, but it has it's a Compton game, or it's a Monopoly type of game. They those are in existence.
yes,
So there's
yes.
other
So
type of
there,
black owned. How did and now you're making yours differently than those, right? So
right.
so what uh let's go through some of the lessons in the game that you would have that says that they're different than the other games that are already, what was making yours better than the other games that they have out.
Okay. All right. So those games that you see in your local Walmarts, those games are produced by a company based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, and to be honest, they're not from the inner cities of California. They're probably not from the inner cities of Ohio. So for them to create a game that says Crenshawopoly, um, Inglewood-opoly, like they don't know what goes on in the city of Crenshaw or Inglewood. So it's and I actually reached out to the company because I was looking to get manufacturing through their company. And they specifically told me, like, when we create a game, it's we don't necessarily know what goes on in those cities. Um, we just get all of our information off the internet. So they create a game based off of them doing their research. But when you when you look at the games, they're the exact same game. There's no difference from the Long Beach Opoly and the Inglewood Opoly. The only difference is the street names. All the cards are still the same. All they're doing is just changing the name on it and putting it in your local Walmart, and people are buying these games, right?
Thinking it's something
But
different.
I
Mm.
yeah, I wanted Hiphopoly to be specific to the city and relatable to people who grew up in those cities, which is another reason why I said if we base it around hip hop artists and the cities that they come from, um, speaking to them about what they want in the game. I don't know what goes on in Houston. I've never been to Houston. I don't know what goes on in New York. Not to say I haven't been there, but I'm not from New York. So partnering with somebody who's from New York and can tell me the lingo, can tell me the things that they do. Like, inner cities are similar in a lot of ways, but they're different in a lot of ways also. So I wanted it to be authentic to the city. And that's why I felt like basing it around hip hop artists who come from those cities would accomplish that goal. So yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to Hiphopoly that we implemented in the game to make it different and to make it relatable.
Right.
There's things like go ahead.
No, I was just, every time you say that, I want to ask you: is there a card or something that you remember? How does the lyrics relate to the game, and how did you come up with which lyrics you was going to use?
Okay, so for instance, Jay-Z has this line that says, chains are cool to cop, but more important is lawyer fees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you take a line like that and you say, okay, he's clearly telling you that it's very important to have money set aside for attorney's fees. There's people who go out here and commit crimes and they spend all the money. They're big spenders, but when they get in trouble, they have no money for an attorney. Now you got a public defender, right? And now you got to deal with the consequences of that public defender defending you. Whereas if you would have had money set aside for an attorney, he may be able to get you out of that jam a little easier than it would if you just were stuck with a public defender. So things like that is why I chose to take lines that were helpful and impactful. But I think you kind of understand where I was going with that.
Yes. So okay, in the difference between your game and the regular Monopoly game, and how you was making it into the hip hop edition. Let's say you said you had it more real life issues. So I haven't played a game or nothing like that. I've seen we had the pictures of it or nothing like that. But how does it address? Can you break down or briefly discuss like credit? Like how does the game help a person, in the real life time playing the game affect getting their credit going up?
Okay, so just like in traditional Monopoly, there's community chess and chance. Well, in Hiphopoly, you got the neighborhood side and you got the Hollywood side, right? So when you pull it, there's two different credit reports, right? When you pull a credit report on the neighborhood side, right, you got a 300 credit score, just terrible. And it's not really going to get you anything in life, So when you pull that credit report, you now have to pay. I think it was like $25 or $50 just for having this establishment run your credit when you knew you didn't have the best credit, So now you're taking a loss by having this company pull your credit report just to tell you, no, we're not lending you nothing, So on the Hollywood side, you pull a credit report, your credit report is an 800, right? And so now that you know that your credit score is 800, that card now allows you to move your token to any property on the board and purchase it for I think it was double the market value. I think it was $200 more than the market value. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the goal behind that was to get people to understand that credit is beneficial to you, but when you're in the inner cities and you're stuck in survival mode, you couldn't care less about credit. You're just trying to survive. So if that means you got to go out here and get a credit card to pay for the repairs on your vehicle just so you can get back and forth to work, but you have no intentions on paying this credit card off, you gonna max that credit card out, and oh well, You know, if they come after me, they come after me. You know, I'm not concerned about it, right? Not knowing that you're messing up your credit by doing that. You know,
Right.
it could have put you in a position, you paying the bill on time every month could have put you in a position to purchase your first property, right? Because it's increasing your credit score the more you make payments on this bill. You know, so again, the goal is to get people to understand the difference between bad credit and good credit.
Good
You
credit.
know, and our our goal is again to promote more enlightenment.
And okay, so with the I think I asked you this before previously, but with that word enlightenment, I mean, does the game also attach the aspects of faith and religion and giving back to the community?
Yes. So in the game, we have a church house, right? Everybody knows when you go to church, you know, the in order to give back, you know, give God his 10%, you have tithes and you have offerings, you know. So there's a church house in the game, and whenever you land on the church house, you either got to give 10% of your earnings or give a $200 offering. There's also a card in the game that um, basically gives you an option whether you want to give back to the church house scholarship stipend to help someone who wants to be more enlightened, or you just want to say I don't want to give nothing. I just want to be about myself, right? And that's um, that's the aspect of faith and giving back, right? And I feel it was important to put that in the game because when you have a relationship with God, you understand that you have to make deposits into the world in order for it to come back to you. And you know, I've I've given to people in need. Um, I don't give to everybody I see in need, you know, but God convicts my heart when He tells me who who to bless, you know. So I just feel like people have blessed me, and I feel like it's my due diligence to bless others. You know, I was in the store one day, and I remember um, it was a mother, her daughter, and her son. They were in line in front of me, and I remember all the times that my mom would go to the store and she would come back home and wouldn't have anything for me, but she got things for my sisters, and it just made me feel some kind of way, right? So I'm standing in line and I'm watching this kid. He's you know, asking his mom for, you know, some toy, and she put it up on the register, and you know, scanned it, and for whatever reason, I guess she couldn't afford it, so she tells the cashier to take it off, and
Yeah.
the kid just broke down. You know, the
Hmm.
kid just broke down. He went over in the corner and started crying about it. You know, but when I seen that, I immediately remembered, you know, when my mom used to do that for me. You know, the little sister got what she wanted, but the son is like, nah, you're gonna have to sit this one out. You know, so I just felt like it was my obligation to do for him that, you know, others have done for me. You know, so I purchased the item, and you know, I handed it to him. So, but I just feel like things like that is what we have to do as a community. We got to get outside of ourselves sometimes, and stop thinking that, you know, it's all about us. You know, your life is not about you. It's more about your service to others, giving back. So that's why I put that in the game. Like, okay, let's see what decision you're gonna make when when that voice in your spirit tells you to be a blessing to somebody else, and you're either going to do it, or you're going to listen to that voice, or you're going to choose to be all about yourself. Which one are you going to do? And it's different when you playing a game and you sitting at a table and you got all these people sitting around the table wondering what type of decision you going to make. You know, it's a little different.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting that you said it that way, because I was in the store the other day, and this lady, I had the money on me, and it's like I seen this lady who had just that thing, her I don't know, when we go shopping, we usually budget, I mean,
Right.
we know what we're getting, and we're adding it up in our brain as we get it. We're already calculating, we got this, we got this, we got this. And the person, this lady, she went to the counter, she had all this stuff, and she started setting all this stuff to the side, like some milk and some other stuff. And I sat up there and I thought to myself, I said, man, I said, how much more could that milk and those little few items could be, that that she either over calculated, or maybe I can come out and be like, well, here go like $10 extra, you know what I mean? So you can get your stuff. And then it, it dawns on me that even though people may have that, and you may have that thought in your brain that say, okay, well, hey, look, I could throw her a couple of dollars, and it doesn't necessarily hurt me or nothing like that, and I would feel good because okay, I helped her out. But at the same time, I got to think about those times where I go to the store, what I mean? And when I was in there getting something, I was already calculating of how much it would cost, how much I had to bring, how much, I might see something else because I got some other stuff, and maybe I wanted to get something, and I'm thinking like that was maybe of a learning experience for her, that this game may be giving people, as to you need to go in there with the mindset already of what you're spending, in which, well, I should say how much you have to spend and what you're going to buy. I mean, you gotta balance that before you even go in there. You can't just go in there like, I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna grab this, and then like, okay, let me see how much it costs. What I mean? So that was kind of like a insight, going through the game too. I believe that you're gonna have given people too. And but besides that, I mean, I was saying that the things that go on in the hood, when they be shooting dice and gambling and stuff like that. And what?
Yeah.
I think you have like something with the janky jackpot on there.
Right.
What is that
So
about?
the janky jackpot, gambling is prevalent in the hood, right? Whether it be a dice game, whether it be, people playing the lottery, spending their life savings on the lottery, thinking that it's going to pan out for them. And, I, I remember I was this is the reason I put this in the game, because when I was in the 6th grade, I used to watch the local OGs. I used to sit there and watch them and their dice games, right? And I used to sit back and watch all the money that was on the ground, and just learning the game. And so when I learned it, I call myself doing the same thing, right? So I go and get me a set of dice. I think I might have took them out of a board game or something, right? And I go to school, and we gamble in quarters, 50 cent. And I call myself want to get that kind of money that I seen on the ground, right? And my mom, she had went through my backpack one day, and she saw the dice in the bag, and she was like, "What's this about?" I was like, "Oh, I was just doing what I see Baby D doing, And so she goes to talk to Baby D, and Baby D comes over to the house, and she was like, tell him about that gambling stuff. So, he's telling me, hey, man, I'm not here to tell you what to do and what not to do, but I just want you to understand that you got to be careful about gambling, because it could cost you your life. It could cost you your life. And not only that, it's a messed up feeling when you lose, So, and me, I'm in the 6th grade, I'm like listening to him, but I'm not really paying attention to him, because I'm like, and I just seen you out there the other day gambling, and you trying to tell me, you know, not to gamble. You trying to persuade me to choose another route. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear all that. I'm trying to get this money like you trying to get the money. So I ended up going back to school, and I think I lost like $10, right? Hurt my heart, you know. Yeah, that was like a life savings to me back then. So when I lost that money, I was just like, wow, this is exactly what he was talking about. Like, it's a messed up feeling when you lose. So I decided to incorporate that aspect of the game or into the game because gambling is synonymous with being in the hood. You know, you can go on any street corner and find a dice game, you know. So one of the cards, you pull a card and it says something like you got a gambling habit, right? Now go ahead and roll a dice and see if you need to pay or collect. Now, if you roll a 7 or 11, then everybody at the table has to pay you $20. But if you don't, now you have to pay everybody else $20, right? And the goal was hopefully you don't hit that 7 and 11 and you lose the money and you see how that feels. Like, I got to pay all these people $20. I may not even have it, you know, but I got to pay all these people. Like, okay, the same lesson I learned from that conversation with Baby D, I was trying to incorporate that into the game, you know, and same with you know, spending a lot of money on the lottery, you know.
Yeah.
For some reason, we feel like one of us is gonna hit this lottery, you know, and we will spend our life savings on winning this lottery, you know. So that's what the janky jackpot is for. And when you land on the janky jackpot, again, it's gambling. You got to put up, I think it's $20 per roll or $50 for 3 rolls.
Yeah.
And you have to call out your number. If you call out your number and roll that number, then you win all the money in the janky jackpot. But if you don't, you obviously lose that money. And we had to put a cap when we were stress testing the game, when we were doing all our focus groups. People literally wanted to sit there and gamble all their money away on the janky jackpot. So we had to put a limit as to how many times you could play the janky jackpot when you landed on it. And we capped it off at 3, you know, but it just, again, it just tells you the mindset, you know, of those of us who want to get rich quick. You know, we don't want, a lot of people who gamble or invest, if you will, into the lottery, if you take that money, if you add up all the money you spent on trying to win the lottery and invested that money elsewhere, you probably have a nice little nest egg saved up or some type of residual income than you just giving the money away to your local 7-Eleven or liquor store trying to win the lottery, you know. But again, the goal was to get people to think like, I'm really, really out here wasting my money on trying to win this lottery.
Yeah. That's just like these subscriptions you have to you know, these different services, you know, that you don't really watch. You know, that's money that's just going down the drain because you can only watch so many movies or so many shows before, you know, it's like, okay, well, I mean, you didn't got the most that you can get out here. Now you're waiting for something new to come on, but you're still paying for the subscription. You know,
so wasting money.
I'm gonna pass it to Keith, see what he has for you.
I appreciate it. You know, I was just listening to you guys, and it's kind of a couple of things I want to say real quick. Is that when you were talking about giving back, I think that resonated with me and Rizak because of the fact that that's what we're doing, right? You know, we're trying to give back. It's not always about us. It's about you. We want you guys to succeed and lift you guys up and make sure the small business entrepreneur community is able to get whatever we can offer to put them out there and allow them to be able to explain themselves as a business owner. And one of the other things you talked about was when you were talking about Nipsey, and I think that it kind of resonated with me about, you know, change, right? You know, you're making a change, and he was a star. He was doing the music, and he was also a business guy who was making that change. But one of the things that we also need to learn about as we make these changes is we can't forget about our past, you know, because even though the past is behind you, sometimes it comes full circle in front of you, and we don't know sometimes that's why I'm hoping that in this game that you're teaching people that it's important to lay a foundation so that you are stable in life and also that you are safe in life, right? So there's both ways to go along that. So in talking about that, being safe and establishing yourself with some kind of understanding about your past. How does the game deal with attorneys? And you got paid attorneys, you got the self, you got the ones that you don't pay, the ones that are free. How did the game balance those types of investments, not only yourself, but also how the game teaches you?
Well, um, just like in any other Opoly themed game, there's a jail, but this game has jail and prison in it, right? Um, so as far as the paid attorneys versus the public defenders, again, going back to that line that Jay-Z said, chains are cool to cop, but more important is lawyer fees, right? Um, you should set aside in this game, you should set aside money for an attorney. Um, and if you don't, then you run the risk of going to jail or doing time in jail because you don't have the funds to pay an attorney to get you out. You have to gamble with a public defender, So um, if you do end up pulling a card, whatever that sends you to jail, or making a decision that sends you to jail, then you either have to have an attorney to get you out, or you have to gamble with that public defender. Now, when you gamble, if you choose to gamble, you're going to roll the dice, right? If you roll a 7 or 11, then your attorney, your public defender was successful and ended up getting you out of jail, right? But if you don't, now you got to serve that time. There is no retrial. There is no, wait, I need a do-over. I want to gamble again. No, if your attorney does not get you out the first time, then you have to do that time. In traditional Monopoly, you have like 3 different times to try to roll doubles in order to get out of prison or get out of jail, and to me, that wasn't realistic, in our community, you don't get a second and third time to get out of jail, right? If your public defender is unsuccessful, you're gonna ride that time out, So, but however, if you have an attorney, you get out immediately, So again, that's to expound upon that line from Jay-Z. Um, that's where we were going with the paid attorney versus the public defender.
Well, man, it's nothing about that that's fake. That is real, authentic, and honest. Because if she ain't getting you out or he ain't getting you out first time around, you for the ride or die with that time. That's just it. There ain't gonna be nothing else to say to it. And the game needs to be able to. In our community, that type of game is serious because that's reality. That's the reality of our situation that we're dealing. So when you put this game together and you got all of these different cards and words and playing obstacles for the game, what is the most valuable card? What is the most valuable card someone wants to have and say, you know what? Whoo, I'm glad I got this.
So there's a card in there. It's called the most valuable player card. And so as an avid golfer, I was looking into going to golf college to become a professional, right? And I toured a facility, and the lady that was walking us around, she was like, it's good that you guys don't have visible tattoos because tattoos are frowned upon in the world of golf. So there's a hip hop artist called Schoolboy Q. He's also an avid golfer, and has face tattoos. I mean, he's tatted up like the subway in Harlem. So he ends up, I subscribe to the Four magazine. That magazine came in the mail, and I seen him on the cover of the Four, right? And I like, wow, this is such a win for the culture and the world of golf, because to come from having a South Central gang affiliation to being on the cover of a magazine that, like the lady said, they frown upon having tattoos. You know how golf is. It's very prestigious, and they, I mean, it wasn't really designed for us. Let's be honest. So for him to come from South Central Los Angeles and make it out of the circumstances, of he's affiliated with the Hoover Street gang, and in that neighborhood, it's nothing but prostitution. I mean, this is drug dealing. I mean, this is what you come from, and this is what you see, right? And so for you to make it out of that and then end up on the cover of the Ford magazine, that was just a nod to him to let him know that, we appreciate you. Other people may not see the value and how you were able to go from this to that, but as an avid golfer, I know it. I see it. So it was more so just a nod to him. So when you pull that, when you pull that card and you get the most valuable player award, now everybody at the table has to pay you $50, for your sacrifices, and you going above and beyond to get that kind of recognition.
Shoot, man, I tell you, because I like playing golf, but I don't know about that, man. But I appreciate you adding that part to the game, because it's an important part of making sure that everybody has something that they don't know how to do, to learn how to do if you haven't played golf before. But yeah, I'm going to pass it back over to Razak. He has a couple more questions for you.
Okay. Let me let's do a brief pause right now on the game, and can we I want to know a couple of things right here. I got a couple of questions here. What is your okay, so you also said that you do music. What is your style, or what have you done recently connected to the game, and what was your other businesses? What do they entail, or how do you promote or intertwine them or anything?
Well, as a kid, I was like most kids who grew up in the inner cities. Like I said, I wanted to be a hip hop artist. So I started rapping at a young age, and then when I joined the military, I kept rapping, I kept writing songs. Linked up with my guy in Japan. He had a studio set up in his house. We would get together. I would write, he would make the tracks, and we would record. So our goal was to, he wanted to get signed as a producer. I was looking to get signed as an artist. So I just kept moving forward with the dream of being a musician, right? And so now, I've pretty much kind of let that dream go. I'm not so much trying to be an artist, but I do get inspired when I hear, certain songs, certain verses, and it just, I don't know, it gets your creative juices flowing, so I may hear a beat, I may hear, a verse that I feel like, I could write something to that song. I could write a verse to it. So when I get inspired is when I write. Like I have an idea that I wrote a song for this another song for the board game. So our theme song, I wrote that. It's on our website. You can check us out, HIPHOPOLYBoardgames.com. I wrote that song. Had a DJ create the track for it, recorded it, had my other buddy mix it down for me. But the idea that I have for this new song is, in the game, there's a card where you have to decide if you want to invest in yourself. If you want to invest in opportunity zones or rob the bank, right? So the idea that I had, since the cover of the box is my younger self, The left side of it is my younger self. The right side it is me now. Um, I wanted to have basically be sitting down playing the game and talking to my younger self, like, okay, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna invest in opportunity zones, or are you gonna rob the bank? And so the first verse is about the product of my environment mindset, like why I would rather rob the bank than invest, right?
Hmm.
So then it goes to the chorus, and then the second verse is my older self explaining why I would rather invest instead of robbing the bank, right? And um, that I'm working on, you know, getting everything put in place to shoot the video, and once we get it finalized, once I get the track finalized, we're gonna go ahead and pull the trigger on that one. But yeah, I think it's a good promotional tool that we can use to market and promote the game. But yeah, as
Okay.
far as yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. People always are gonna bring the meat, and that's another thing I wanted to ask you too. We didn't ever cover in your earlier interview is that when you when you're doing the since you were inspired by your own musical talent, and you went to Nipsey Hussle and making it a hip hop thing. What was it also made them accept you or even want to talk to you? Was it just the game, or was it that you had the musical talent too?
No, I don't think they knew anything about me making music. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
I didn't approach them from that standpoint. You know, I was
Okay.
approaching them merely, you know, looking for a licensing agreement where we could create the game based on, you know, Nip. Reached out to a few other artists as well, and you know, I mean, the other artists liked the idea, but because I didn't have, you know, a sales history, because this I hadn't released a product yet. You know, it was kind of like they was kind of like iffy on um, partnering with a company who really didn't have a product. You know, so I was like, I get it. You know, we just gonna have to put it out without any celebrities on it right now, and hopefully in the future, you know, we could work with different hip hop artists once they see the potential and the value in the product.
Okay. Okay. And the other thing about your other businesses, so you said that you was able to rent out your other property or your first property that you have bought earlier in life.
Mhm.
So you're like a landlord. So you're also into real estate. You also have a real estate company, or how does that work? How does that
Not a
work?
company. Um, I just have a rental property. So I purchased my first home in 2004, and then in 2006 I purchased my first rental property. 2007 I purchased another one, and then the market crashes in 2008. You know, so I ended up, you know, and at the time the mortgages were so high I had to rent the rooms out, right? And so I literally had like 10 tenants. I had 10 bedrooms with 10 tenants, you know, all of them, you know, you dealing with different personalities. You got some people wanting to pay, you got some people wanting you to support them. You know, rent is only $400, but you know, for some reason they don't see why they got to pay. They feel as though you as the landlord should be taking care of them. You know, like these are the things that I had to deal with, you know, with renting out rooms. And I learned valuable lessons, you know, when you're dealing with people who only can afford to rent out a room. Um, it was just too much of a hassle for me to hound people for $400 than it would be if I just rented out the whole house to one family, you know.
Okay.
So because it was so much of a hassle and because the market had crashed, I was now upside down on the properties. um, I ended up you know, walking away from them. You know, it just wasn't worth it. You know, I didn't know how long it was going to take for us to recoup the money that we had spent on them. I didn't I didn't know how long it was going to take for us to get out of the red, you know? So I was just like, you know what? This is too much of a headache. I don't want to deal with it. But once I let them go, now 3 years later, yeah, it ruined my credit. Don't get me wrong, it ruined my credit, but because I continue paying all my other bills, you know, 3 years later, I'm back up in the 700s. I think it had dropped my credit score probably to like, you know, five something, just by letting the two properties go. But 3 years later, I'm back up in the 700s, and I purchased another home. Right. So I'm ended up moving out of my first home, moving into the home I'm in now. And I'm actually closing escrow on a new property at the end of September. You know, so we're still undecided if I wanted to rent this one out yet, or just let it go. But yeah, we dabble in real estate, you know.
Yeah, that might be a whole nother podcast right there. You know, where we just figure out how to do that. It almost sounds like a transitional housing you had going on there with all these different tenants and stuff like that. You know, like those what they call the Airbnb types. You know what I mean? Renting them out to people like that. You know, that would be cool.
I wouldn't say it was Airbnb type, but I mean, sometimes we had turnovers that seemed like it was like an Airbnb, you know, people that wasn't there for long.
I heard that. Yeah, I used to work for this guy, and that's what we had to do. Evict tenants out of his place. We had to go and get their stuff out of there and do all that stuff. Man, I know that's a headache right there when you don't have somebody who's able to pay on a yearly, 2-3 year lease, and it's just a couple of months, and then But okay, so okay, well, you have another business too, right? Is there another business you have? What's your other business?
Yeah, it's my golf line,
the
golf clothing
golf.
line. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, so we have.
Okay, can you
like right now? Yeah, so I got it. Like I said, avid golfer, and lots of times I will go out to golf courses, you know, and I'm wearing all these other brands, and people would comment on what I'm wearing. Oh, that's a nice hat. Oh, that's a nice shirt. You know, that's a nice outfit. You know, and I just felt like, okay, if I could wear all these other brands, what would it be like if I just created my own brand? You know, so I just got to brainstorming about what I wanted the logo to be, and yeah, I put it together, sent it off for copyrights or trademarks, and yeah, ended up contacting a manufacturing company in China, and got some pieces ordered. And yeah, so right now we have hats, we have sweatshirts, and club covers. So we're working on, collared t-shirt, not t-shirts, but collared shirts, and just other golf apparel, gloves, eventually pants. We're just trying to build it up to the point where we could be competitive in the golf world with a lot of the other brands that have been around since the beginning of time.
Right.
And I feel like we're on the right path just based off the responses we've been getting to, just me and my friends wearing the brand, wearing it out in public, wearing it on the golf course. I got a golf bag. I think people compliment me on the golf bag more than anything, so I just feel like we on the right path. It's just working with the manufacturing companies to get a quality product, because I'm big on quality. Like, if people are gonna pay for your products, it has to be quality. Like, low budget stuff to me doesn't work for me, and I don't think it would benefit me or my company to put out low budget products. You know what I mean?
What's the name of it?
It's called Bird Gang Golf Club, and the reason we went with that name was because um, in football, right, where you have the Eagles, you have the Cardinals, and like all the fans, all they do is scream Bird Gang. They're Bird Gang members because they're representing their teams, right? So my idea behind it was, okay, if all these, Eagle fans and Cardinal fans, they ride hard for their teams, So I'm like, well, literally everybody who golfs is out here chasing birds, whether it be a birdie, whether it be an eagle, whether it be an albatross, it does not matter. Everybody who golfs is out here for some form of a bird. So I just felt like everybody who golfs can be a bird gang member, So I wanted to make something that would be global.
Okay, okay, man. Yeah, that's a lot of hats. So you're doing real estate. You got a golf club, golf outfits, clothing. Man, got a board game out. You had your military service. That's a lot going on. That's a lot. I don't think we covered before is okay. So your okay. So all your experiences, life, you got these businesses going. You know how people are the ups and downs of being tenants and stuff. So that means that you're somewhat familiar with how their life and from yourself is for that matter. Okay, so what about the in the game? So let's go back to the game real quick. And what would be the aspects of like child support or substance abuse, and how do you implement that into the game also?
Okay, so the child support piece is one that's a huge issue in urban communities, right? You got, you know, the baby mama filing child support on the father who, you know, uh, may want to be involved in the child's life, but she making it hard for him because she wants as much money as she can get. So she wants to prove that he's an unfit father and he don't want nothing to do with the child. You know how the game goes. When you in the inner city, it's it's unless you have a great relationship with the mother or the father of your child, child support is probably going to be on the table, So we implemented this card, right, just to give people food for thought, right? A lot of fathers don't want to pay child support, and for whatever reason, but the goal was to get the discussion going. Like, why is it that a lot of fathers do not want to pay child support? So the card it basically gives you an option. You can either pay child support, or you can go to jail and be known as an unfit a deadbeat, right? And so, um, my wife and I, we were playing it. The card came up, right? And it's actually on our Instagram page. It's one of the first videos that's tagged. Check it out when you get a chance. But he pulls the card, and he has to decide if he wants to pay child support or go to jail. So he's counting out his money, and he didn't have the money to pay the child support. So he's like, I'll go to jail. And so his fiance is like, well, no, you got to mortgage a property and get the money to pay the child support. And he was like, no, I don't. I could be a deadbeat dad and I could just go to jail, So she was like, where's your moral compass? She was upset at the decision he was making. Right. So once they left, they had to leave early because I guess their kids were coming over to visit. And when they got there, she was telling the kids, she was like, go ahead, tell them what you did. Tell them how you don't want to pay child support for them. Right. And so I guess he explained to the kids what happened or whatever, but they ended up getting married, and now they're divorced again. Right. And she felt like she should have known, just based off, she told my wife that based off of the card, she should have known he was still about himself, and she didn't realize that until after they had gotten married again. So I don't know. It just it does show you the type of character that people has. You know what I mean? And that part of the reason we implemented that child support card was, one, to get people to understand that kids don't ask to come into this world, right? You, as a parent, you made that decision to bring them into this world, and they deserve your support. Now, whether that be if you want to support them because you can't stand your child's mother, that should be irrelevant. What should matter is the care of that child. So we just feel as though, because child support is a big issue in urban communities, we had to put it in the game.
Right. Let me ask you this, because I don't think we ever addressed this. What is the retail price on your game?
Oh, so we retail the games for anywhere from $100 to $120. It just depends. Like, we have them in a couple of retail stores, they sell for $120. But normally when we go to our vendor events, we sell the games for $100.
Okay. Has there anybody ever said, "Hey, man, that's too much. Why is it so high?" Do they realize what goes into making a game?
No, I don't think anybody knows. But I tell people all the time, the price point is the price point for a reason. When we go to these, one, you don't know what my manufacturing costs are, right? I'm not a big brand company yet, although I believe we can get there, but I'm not like a Hasbro when I can afford to, have 1 million games manufactured and distribute them all over the world. I'm not at that level yet. So when I submit an order, my order quantities are a lot lower than theirs. So It's just business. Whenever you have a larger order quantity, your costs are going to be less. The lower your order quantity, the costs are going to be more. So, my manufacturing costs are expensive because of my order quantity. And two, when we go to these vendor events, it costs money to get into these vendor events. So like Taste of Soul, cost us $1,200 to get into the Taste of Soul. We attended the event once and we ended up selling, I think it was 25 games, for $100 a piece. So literally half of what we made went to the Taste of Soul, right? That doesn't include my manufacturing costs. That doesn't include, the cost that it takes to get to the venue. It doesn't include all the other fees associated when you own a business. There's monthly fees, there's annual fees, there's like, and I don't think people understand that. They just see, oh, it's $100. Why would you charge? First of all, Hasbro has games, Monopoly themed games, over $100. One of the reasons I stuck to that price point because the original game was supposed to be the Nipsey Hussle edition, and he sold his Crenshaw CD for $100. So when I'm creating the game, I said this game is going to be $100. All right, and once he passed, I said, okay, if I put it out without him on it, I probably can't charge $100 for the game. And so I'm having a conversation with my friend, and he was like, man, I don't think you understand what you have, And he was like, have you ever watched The Founder? I was like, nah, I never seen it. So he's telling me about it. The Founder, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Ray Kroc, and the whole McDonald's franchise, right? He comes in, he sees that the franchise should be global, whereas the McDonald's brothers, they wanted to keep it local to San Bernardino County. Well, long story short, he ends up taking the brand global, right? So he's telling me, it was like, bro, I know this is your baby. I know you created it, but I don't think you realize what you have, right? You want to chop down the price because you don't think people can afford it. But right, it's not up to you to determine what they can or can't afford. So he was like, if I was you, I would charge more for the game than $100. I was like, nah, man, I'm not going to do that. If I'm going to stand on the price point, then we're going to stick to the $100 price point. Right. But he was just like, when every time Jordan drops a new pair of shoes, we the first in line to go and buy them. $200-$300, it don't matter price point, right? We the first in line to go get them. So if they can figure out that, hey, I have the money to buy these Jordans, then it's up to them to determine if they can or can't afford your game. But I think you need to charge more for it because you don't know what you have. So when I had that conversation with him, I said, all right, we're going to stand on the $100 price point. And again, because of the manufacturing, because of, all the costs associated with bringing the game to life, just bringing the game to life, it cost me $85,000. So again, the price point is what it is. And when people come to my booth and try to haggle me down and negotiate with me, I like to tell them, Elon Musk is he never discounts his Tesla, right? And when Tesla came out, when I found out the price point was, I was just like, what? I'm not spending $100,000 on this car. My wife wanted one. I'm not spending $100,000 on this car. And that was until we ended up buying one, right? And so he was not coming down on this price point because, we want the hoopty price, right? So I tell people, if the Tesla is not for you because it's too expensive, you're more than welcome to go to Walmart and buy the hoopty, right? But this is not that, and this is why the price is what it is.
All right.
Wow.
Okay.
That's kind of the word we got to do, man. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. I want to ask you, what's coming up new? What you got coming up new, and that you could tell our listeners about, because we've been hitting them on the real deal update. So let's let them know what's coming up new, that you can talk about the game, or what's on your mind that you're trying to get out there.
Well, coming up new, I mean, we're still attending our vendor events. You can catch us at, events like Black on the Block. Um, what other events? We just did the Juneteenth festivals, um, which is where you saw us at the Menifee Juneteenth. We went down and did the Inglewood Juneteenth Father's Day celebration. So yeah, we try to hit a few events, as often as possible. Um, um, Again, just promoting the product, trying to help inspire a change in mindsets. That's what we're all about. And again, building the golf brand. We're starting to incorporate that also into our vendor events that we attend. So yeah, just getting the word out about our products and our mission. And that's why I appreciate you guys for inviting me on your podcast. Um, Again, to talk about the aspects of the game and what the game is designed to teach, and hopefully, people will pick up the game and see what we have to offer.
Well, we definitely going to make sure we produce that part of it. Is anything that we may have left out that you would like to be able to talk about, and get out to the audience out there, that maybe we didn't cover?
Um, I will say there's a couple cards in the game um, that touches on investing, right? And there's a card in there that asks you, or I guess asks you if you want to invest in yourself or settle for the government's assistance, right? And investing in yourself is, you know, it's kind of like a gamble, just like with me investing in real estate. You don't know what you're getting yourself into, or you may not know what you're getting yourself into unless you do your research. You don't know what type of tenant you're going to deal with when you get in real estate. So it could be a gamble. It could pay off. It could work in your favor, or it could be a bad investment. So um, investing in yourself is probably the way to go, right? I said this with the gambling thing, right? I would rather gamble on myself now. As a kid, yeah, I was trying to do what Baby D and them were doing, but now you can't catch me gambling, right? I'd rather gamble on myself and my ideas than go out to a casino and gamble my money away. I'm thinking like, okay, I could take this money and buy some merchandise for the golf line. I could take this money and go to this vendor event to sell the games. So those are type of investments that I'm looking to spend my money on. So I felt it was important to give people the option to either invest in themselves or settle for the government's assistance. Now, this is kind of how this card works. If you choose to invest in yourself, again, it could be synonymous with gambling if you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So, because it's a game, you kind of got to, um, I guess, make the investment in game format so that it's you reap the rewards as soon as you pull the card, right? So when you pull that card, let's say I choose to invest in myself. Well, you can put up to $500 in the center of the board and roll the dice. If you roll a 7, 11, or a double, then you collect double your investment. right? But if you choose to settle for the government's assistance, you get a $50 Social Security check and you miss 2 turns, right? And the idea behind it was to get people to understand that, again, we're not supposed to be living on government assistance, right? Because they're literally giving you, they don't even give you enough to survive, right? They just give you enough to pacify you and say, you have to stay under these guidelines in order to continue getting this assistance from us, right? You can't make over a certain dollar amount, right? So the goal behind it was to get people to understand, like, you can literally be out here making more money than being dependent on the government to support your lifestyle. You know, they're literally paying you to stay in the house and watch TV, right? And once you realize that, you realize that, hey, you mean to tell me if I just get up off this couch and I can go out here, I can make more? You know, it's all about your mindset, right? If you have a fixed mindset and you're thinking that my situation is never going to get any better, you know, this is how my grandparents were raised, this is how my parents were raised, this is how I was raised, this is how my kids are going to be raised, and their kids are going to be raised, then yeah, you may be stuck in this fixed mindset and you think nothing is ever going to change. But if you have a growth mindset, you can change your circumstances. The only thing you have to have is a dream, drive, dedication, and determination. That's it. And you can change your lifestyle. And you do not have to be a celebrity. You do not have to be a ball player. You do not have to be a hip hop artist. You can be yourself and still live a fruitful life. And again, that's, in closing, that's all I would add.
Well, thanks for coming on the show and giving us this update.
Hey, we know that you're the man, man. You know, you got everything going on, and we want to tell you how much we appreciate you coming back and updating us on everything, man. I just want to say one last thing so we can make sure that we're for sure about how to get a hold of you, your email address, and all of that stuff. Can you give us a shout out there for everybody to know exactly how to get a hold of you and get that game?
Yes, you can follow us on social media platforms at HIPHOPOLY or at Product of My Enlightenment. And you can get the game from our website, HIPHOPOLYBoardgames.com. And our email address is on the site if you have any questions and just want to hit us up about anything.
Hey, man, Chuck, thanks so much, man. And we can't wait to play that game whenever you get it out there close to us. We want to be able to sit there and have our stress moment. You know, we want to be able to see how much we can handle, because I don't know what it takes to be financially successful to where I can get all those things that you have. But maybe the game will help me to, you know, enlighten me on those things. And I'm looking forward to it, brother. But you take care of yourself. We are looking forward to all the success that you're going to, you know, bring to your family and to other people out there that is trying to succeed. And here on KF&JF Podcast, man, we can't thank you enough. And appreciate you, and we're proud of you for being you.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for the support, and thank you for seeing the vision and stopping by our booth and see what we're doing.
Yeah, oh yeah, we out there, man. We always on the move. That's what we do. We go from the KF&JF Podcast is always on the move.
Always on the move.